objection, Your Honor. I was making fun of Buddy. What's his name?
We're ready to go? Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call the meeting to order. Welcome. I think we're going to be relatively quick today. We do have a limited agenda. Being in the middle of Winter Carnival, I think it's fair to say that we've all got substantial obligations for the rest of the evening and the rest of the week. The reality be told. Everybody tired yet? Yes. How's everybody doing?
Feel like we've been through 2 weeks already.
3 weeks already, right? I spent a week there one night. Yeah, we've got a great carnival going, though, I got to say. Anyway, first thing tonight, adoption of the agenda moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Tessier, that we accept the agenda as presented. We do have a couple of items, an engineering report as well as the Planning and Development Department report, and we are also going to be tabling a piece of correspondence and a proclamation that was not in the agenda. They are now added. Anything else to add that's not readily known to us here? Hearing nothing, we'll call it. All in favor? Contrary minded? Accept the agenda as now presented. The first item we will do is the adoption of the minutes from our public meeting of January 24th. It is moved by Councillor Akers, seconded by Councillor Stoyles, that we accept the minutes as presented. Are there any errors or omissions? Again, the minutes of January 24th. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, we are going to call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Business arising from the minutes. Okay, Councillor Stoyles.
029. I know it's
029?
It's covered with snow. It's covered with
039.
Snow.
Sorry.
039? 029? It's the hedge.
Oh, well, I'm looking at January 24th.
Well, I'm just.
Oh, hold on here, guys. I'm sorry.
You're in the wrong minutes.
I think I'm in the committee of the whole.
Okay, well, I'm not.
You carry on.
I just wanted to get. I know it's winter time, and I doubt very much if anything is going to be doing now that it's totally covered by snow. I drove by it as I came into council, and I know nothing is being done. I'm just wondering if there's an update, or if we should leave it now until the snow is gone and bring it back. I'm just wondering, because I don't want to be bringing it up every week, but I don't want it to get lost either.
When you're obsessed with this hedge.
Well, it's not that I'm obsessed with it. The residents down there is obsessed with it. And winter time and certain times of the year, it's a hazard in any street getting out anywhere when there's snow there. But when there's something there on a regular basis and something that we thought was going to be taken care of, and it's not. So I'm just wondering what the status is.
Unfortunately, Mr. Yevchek is not here. CAO, you got any status for us? Michelle?
I do, Your Worship. It won't get lost, Councillor Stoyles. I appreciate it's taking some time, but last time I reported that we were giving the lawyer some information. We have given him that, and we're allowing him some time to go through that. So I had planned by end of this week to check back with him, hoping that it will resolve the issue and he'll understand the safety concern. But you're right, with the snow, the actual removal of the hedge is probably postponed now.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other business arising, again, from the minutes of January 24th? Any other business arising? Hearing none, we're going to move on. Thank you. Item 2, proclamations, presentations. We do have a proclamation today. It is from Heritage Day. Oh, and there's another one from Pancake Day, which I didn't see that actually in the agenda. I was looking at the wrong one earlier. There's no one here to address this, so I'm going to just read it into the record and sign it so that Mona can actually pass it off to the Heritage Foundation of Newfoundland and Labrador. It reads, whereas the third Monday in February is recognized provincially as Heritage Day, and whereas Heritage Day is a time to reflect on the achievement of past generations and to accept responsibility for protecting our heritage, and whereas our citizens should be encouraged to celebrate Newfoundland and Labrador's uniqueness and to rejoice in their heritage and environment, and whereas in 2012 the residents of Newfoundland and Labrador will celebrate their rich and diverse heritage, therefore I, Mayor Randy Sims, on behalf of the City of Mount Pearl, do hereby proclaim Monday, February 20th, as Heritage Day, and I call upon all citizens to celebrate the richness of our past and the promise of our future. And I will affix a signature accordingly, and we will arrange for Mona to see to it that the signed proclamation, a copy of same, gets into the hands of the Heritage Foundation of Newfoundland and Labrador. Does anybody have a comment? Deputy Mayor, if you would.
This sort of ties into what I was actually speaking with yourself, Your Worship, I think, and a couple other councillors. In terms of the Admiralty House Museum, be a good opportunity for us to mention that here in terms of celebrating our own heritage. And in particular, I think during City Days, if we could bring this up. So, just trying to remember who I was speaking with that time. I think it was it Miss Peach or Mr. Yevchek? We talked about this. We had a conversation. Was it you, Miss Peach, on the... In any event, it was...
Talk to me about it. Does that help?
Yeah, but I think I told you of a meeting that I had... I'm just trying to remember now. When was it? Frosty? Well, we're in the Frosty Festival, so that's why I'm a little... I think it was Mr. Yevchek and I had a conversation about... it was, yes. Now it's coming back to me. On City Days, I know it's sort of a celebration and, like events and all this sort of stuff, but our conversation was City Days might be a good opportunity to actually celebrate our heritage and probably incorporate some of the City Days events to around heritage celebration. And the point that I was making, I think, to you folks during the Winter Carnival was many people think that Mount Pearl has no real history or, we're sort of a young city and stuff like that. But we do have a considerable history. Unfortunately, I was at the funeral home last night. One of my relatives has passed on. And I was speaking with my great aunt, and she was telling me that, the Dunns down in Dunn's Corner have been here for like 220 years. And she and some of my other great aunts sat back, and we have 310 relatives in the city of Mount Pearl here on the Dunn side and my maternal heritage side. And
No wonder you're deputy mayor.
well, here you go. I had all those votes.
Because I wonder he's not emperor.
In any event, when I read this in the package, I said, what a great opportunity to mention this, that perhaps it could be a role or maybe something that Admiralty House could look into, or, the folklore department, I think Councillor Walsh mentioned, might, at the university, might be willing to take this on. I think City Days would be a great opportunity to celebrate our heritage as a city. And I know in conversation with Mr. Yevchek, some of the things we were talking about, like the urban myths and the urban stories here. And I mentioned the story that one of my great aunts had told me about, there was a train wreck down just past Park Avenue where the train track used to run. And of course, many people don't realize that. When the swimming pool was built behind the Park Place down there, when people used to swim in Twin Falls and Terrorsburg. I mean, there's a lot of history here that I think we're not tapping into. And my point was that, some of our residents, I mean, my great aunt down there now is 92 this month. I got another great aunt who's 86. We've all met people on our campaign trails that are senior residents in their 80s and 90s, and they're a wealth of information. And my concern is if we don't tap into these people, when they're gone, I mean, it's like burning encyclopedias, isn't it? We're losing a significant portion of our heritage. So my feeling was that perhaps, and I guess I bring it up at community.
I was going to say, doesn't this sound familiar?
Community services, that maybe that's something when we talk with Admiralty House that they could take on that role. And again, part of our Admiralty House Museum would be a celebration of the heritage of Mount Pearl. So I just wanted to throw that out there now with this proclamation, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to add to that just a little bit. I had an opportunity on Sunday to speak with Noel White. And as you know, Noel White has been working on putting together a small, for the want of a word, I'll call it a civics course for grade 5s here in Mount Pearl. And we as a city have signed on, and we've all agreed that we're going to go into classrooms and do a little song and dance on what the municipal council does and what our role is and all of that, and we've agreed to that. So Noel was talking to me from the perspective of that he really wanted to get staff. He wants a snowplow operator and a garbage truck driver, and he wants a manager and that sort of thing, as well as counselors and that, to show up to talk about what it is they do for the city. In the process of discussing that with him on Sunday, he made reference to the fact, to what you pointed out, is our history. And one of the things they actually did is, there is a book out, which you may be aware of. We have a book that contains the reason why streets are named what they're named in Mount Pearl. And the children at school were absolutely fascinated by it. So he said to me, you know what we should do? We should get all of these grandparents and all of these people that have been in Mount Pearl for years, and we should get them on tape. And I guess that's what you're talking about. Absolutely. And there is a way, I think, through the folklore department to do that, I think. Anyway, I'm hoping community service will take it and explore it and see if we can't do that. I think it would be a great thing to have at Adderley House. Because people would come from far and wide to say, you know, my great-grandfather lived here, and I wonder, would they have a tape of him? Would he exist? Would you know, and with the technology we have, you can bring those people to tell their stories about growing up here and what it was like when they moved here. And, you know, to the point, I never ever knew that Topsail Road really started out as a trail where they drove cattle. And that's what it was. You know, so, I mean, this was deep country, you know. So all of that's fascinating. I think it's well worth the endeavor, and I think we should go after it. Any other comment on that? Hearing none, moving to the second proclamation that we have today, and this one, of course, well, we're quite proud of this because we've always won it. In fact, I think it is fair to say that this year they are actually changing the rules so that the folks over in St. John's at the bunker, you know, won't feel as bad. Anyway, here's the proclamation. It's about Pancake Day. It says, whereas each year there is a CBC pancake breakfast for homelessness for the past 7 years, and there's a trivia contest which Mount Pearl always wins. And it is currently held in various communities throughout Newfoundland and Labrador. And whereas the city of Mount Pearl, with its ongoing commitment to reduce homelessness in Mount Pearl, and the council is so smart. And whereas we endorse the CBC Pancake Breakfast for Homelessness as an opportunity to raise awareness about homelessness and the need for affordable housing in our community. And whereas the city will be participating via the planning of 3 events for Mount Pearl in conjunction with the provincial event organizers. And whereas the beneficiaries of the Mount Pearl Pancake Breakfast events will be Choices for Youth, the Salvation Army Wiseman Center, the St. John's Native Friendship Center, and the Stella Burry Community Services. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Tuesday, February 21st is hereby designated as Pancake Breakfast for Homelessness Day. We're adopting that the 7th day of February 2012. I will affix my signature to that and get it back to the organizers at CBC. But we're also organizing a couple of pancake events here, and we're going to serve some, I think, on the 15th. We're going to do that. Hopefully a lot of people will give us some money because it's all for a great, great cause. But they're changing the rules. They're not going to let Mount Pearl take on the city of St. John's anymore. No, they've changed the rules. They're now going to get a group of innocent citizens who don't know any better and put them up against the city of Mount Pearl and the city of St. John's. So we no longer have to beat them, we now have to carry them. We got to carry the government too. Okay, if we lose this year, it will be because of the weight. But we have to carry on our shoulders. That's all. Pauline will enjoy it.
The pressure is off my shoulders.
Well, that's right. Yes, as the new guy, we can't blame it on you. Now it's going to be a group of it's going to be a group of citizens from the region. I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work, and it's going to happen at the Battery. Councillor Tessier, I know, is going to be one of our 2, and I think I spoke or I sent an email to the lady in organizing this at CBC, whose name escapes me. What's her name? Joanne Dooley, and she's going to be polling council to see who wants to go. And I said I have no problem with that because I can't be there for that morning. It's going to be at the Battery, yeah. Yes, they're going to make a team. Oh, do we dare ask? Why did they ask her?
Future Sports Hall of Fame inductee. The reason that they asked me, I believe, is because our very first year with the Golden Pancake, when everybody was answering questions about safety pins and thimbles and pieces of wood, I was asked a question about what year Aunt Jemima Pancake Mix first rolled off the production line. And it was a tiebreaker, and I got it right. That's why.
Excuse me, can I rise too and say that I got the winning question last week? Maybe I'll just sit down and say
First pancake.
Self-praise is better than
Back to the agenda.
we are trying to finish up.
We're moving on. Thank you, Councillor Stoyles, for putting that in its proper perspective. We are going to go to correspondence. We do have a letter to the from municipalities, Newfoundland and Labrador, from President Churis Rogers, a call to action, a municipal plan for our sector. They're talking about a strategic plan that would financially support municipalities and improve our planning capacity. During a pre-budget consultation in St. John's on January 31st, he spoke to the Minister of Finance on all of this, and he has sent us this memo regarding all of what was said, including reiterating that the need for a new financial arrangement for municipalities is of critical importance to us, that the status quo, as he puts it in his letter, is no longer acceptable. We must seek a commitment from the province to work with municipalities to build a smarter, more sustainable and stronger municipal sector. A municipal strategic plan will effectively deal with the significant municipal issues of the day and minimize our challenges of tomorrow. I am assuming this, and maybe I shouldn't, we're on side with this concept of developing a sector plan for municipalities, are we? Has anybody put any thought into this at all at this point in time? I'm just assuming that, you know, the concern here with this, obviously, from our perspective, is that we have not budgeted for this. I'm not sure whether they're going to come looking to the members to finance something as a separate initiative or not. Lucy, do you have any information?
I don't think they're looking for money. No.
They're just looking for
Just looking for
general support from the membership
And they're
to go
sending
ahead.
out- Yeah, they're sending out as a draft letter there for every municipality to do or to rewrite in their own words to send to the MHA and so forth. So
Okay.
the draft letter is enclosed
Okay.
in the package.
Then I think we should notify them, and we can do that not with a letter. I think we can simply do that through you as a member of the board, to notify them that council has reviewed this particular letter and we are in support with that initiative. Now, if we can offer certainly, you know, technical support, knowledge, whatever, we're game to do that. We'll make staff readily available if we can to help with it if they want.
Your staff, our council certainly has been around supporting M&L in a number of other initiatives over the year. I know, you know, Michelle and Branda and other staff have, you know, when Ray was here, he sat on committees and everything. So I'm sure our staff at a moment's notice will be only too glad to serve.
All right, anybody else with a comment on the correspondence? I have one other piece of correspondence that I just want to table for council because I promised that I would. Last night, they had the card game, the game of Growl, and great turnout. 198 players last night up at the Reed Center, the largest they've ever had in their history. Well over 30 more than they had the year before. But Nancy Noseworthy from the Seniors Independence Group handed me an envelope. She handed me a little envelope with a card in it, and it says, "With warm thanks," and I told her I was going to table it with council today, so I'll do it under correspondence. It's a card, and it reads, "To Mayor Randy Sims and Mount Pearl Councilors, a special thank you. This is our first fitness year completed with the Mount Pearl Senior Independence Group, and we all wanted to let you know that it's working out great. From the Mount Pearl Senior Independence 50-plus fitness group at the Reed Center, thank you for all you did for us, your 50-plus fitness friends," and every single one of them signed it.
Excellent.
I mean, that's very nice. So, guys, every now and again, we get it right, right? And we thank them very much for that. That's appreciated. And just wanted to table that today during correspondence for all members of council to know. Any other comment on that? Are we moving on to committee reports? We're ready to go. We are going to start with Public Works Committee today. Councillor Walsh, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Just on that Nancy Noseworthy letter and that note, I figured I'd do it as part of my committee thing, but you know, that was, if you recall, that was an issue whereby when the program was run before, they were changing continuously instructors. This year, we hired the instructor. They had one instructor for the entire length of the program.
It worked
was
well.
Continuity and some stability for the people who were there, and I think it's for that reason that they were really grateful and appreciative of it, to the extent that they felt it necessary to send along a note of thanks. And yeah, I guess occasionally we do get it right, and I'm glad it worked out well for them. Your Worship, I want to begin not with a detailed report, but by conveying a little story and throwing a big bouquet in the direction of some of our public works staff. God knows, particularly this time of the year, our staff receive enough criticism, most of it not deserved. They get a lot of accolades too, by the way, but a lot of criticism. Last week, Bev, I think it's Bev Ash, she received a call. I actually walked into the depot last week, and there were roses on the desk. And I said to Bev, I said, "What are the flowers about? Is it your anniversary, your birthday?" She said, "No. These were sent to me by a resident." And the story goes like this. There was a couple staying, house-sitting, basically, and looking after two pets on Farrell Drive because the homeowners were away. This is the couple's daughter. And inadvertently, when she answered the door, one of the dogs got out of the house. And, of course, they were extremely upset. Here they were, house-sitting, looking after the pets, and one of the dogs had gotten away. They called the right person. They called Bev. She answered the phone, took the call, immediately sent out a radio dispatch to our crews. Later in the day, several hours later, I think, Walter Fowler, one of our plow operators, and he also handles one of our garbage trucks on season as well. He spotted the dog, called for some support help. I think Frank also responded, to Frank Pretty, and they immediately called Bev, who called the folks who were dog sitting on Farrell Drive. They came, got the dog, got it back to the rightful owner the same day. I mean, what are the chances of that happening? And I think there were 4 or 5 of our staff responded because they knew how important this was to the family and to the couple in particular. And it ended up with a bouquet of flowers on Bev's desk. But I think the bouquet today is more to the entire staff and to the expediency of Bev and our public works employees who saw a little thing like that and responded in such a significant way, a big way actually. So I wanted to pass that along because I think it was a great story, and it kind of struck me because I really thought it was a birthday or an anniversary. Didn't think at all that it would be something like that, and I was really pleased to hear that story. The second thing, I need to rescind, Your Worship, a notice of motion and to just revise it. And I'll do that now. Council has advised that the notice of motion presented at the November 1 public council meeting is withdrawn and replaced with the following revised notice. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act 1988 and Council's public notification policy, take note that I will, at a regular meeting of Council, bring forward a motion to amend the current garbage regulations to reflect the additional services of recycling, the use of regulated garbage containers, along with other minor changes to text. I'll just leave that as it is. Your Worship, I want to add one other thing that's not in your kit, and this is a little bit of update and some cautions. As you know, we've had, or you probably don't know actually, well, you know we've had a lot of snow. We've actually had 72 centimeters of snow in the last 8 days. That's a tremendous amount of snow in a very short period.
So that's why the snowblower is running out of gas.
And that's why your back is probably a little bad, like all the rest of ours.
Oh, man.
So we've had 4 major snowfalls. By last Thursday, from Wednesday's storm, we had gotten 20 centimeters of snow. And then, of course, Friday night and Saturday, excessively high winds, and I think just another 10 centimeters. The points are simply these. Snowbanks are getting very high, and we'd like to put a word of caution out to motorists in particular to drive carefully, particularly at intersections, because the banks, there's really nowhere else to put the snow. And, of course, we're going to get more. This is still very early winter. Children should be cautioned, particularly against playing in areas where there are wires overhead. It's extremely dangerous. And we'd also like to issue a reminder to the public as well, people in neighborhoods where there are wires. If you see a bank that's excessively high or close to wires where children might be inclined to play, let us know. We'll go in, we'll try to remove the snow, cut it back, or take the blower in and look after that. Cul-de-sacs are another problem. They're a problem with children playing. They sometimes build tunnels through the cul-de-sacs. I've already had a couple.
Off of them,
yeah, they do. I've had a couple of people this week. Once at following the ecumenical services on Sunday, one of the residents said, "We still don't have our cul-de-sac cleared." I mean, we just had 30 or 40 centimeters of snow, and I said, "Well, you have to be a little bit patient. This is an excessive amount of snow in a short period of time." But again, as you say, this is an area in the cul-de-sacs where the children tend to gather, they play, they build forts, they build tunnels. It can be dangerous, and of course, we're operating around the clock right now, particularly with snow removal effort in the cul-de-sacs, correct, Jerry? We're still doing 24-hour operations. As well, in terms of our traffic regulations, and this is something that goes over the community services as well, parking is prohibited from 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. and also during snow, 12 hours, up to 12 hours after a snowstorm. I know, for example, like last Wednesday, it was virtually impossible to get vehicles off the street. Schools, children were stranded, buses were stranded, people were coming home from work. And I know, because you didn't need to do any more than look out your window to realize that traffic severely impeded snow clearing operations that day. Our crews did a great job, but I know on my street, every time the plow came along, they had to stop, they had to back up, they had to allow cars to try to get out of the way or get off the street. It was just a continuous barrage of interruption. And of course, when that happens, it takes twice as long to clear the streets. That was unavoidable last week. That wasn't anyone's fault. People had to get home from work, get home from school, and that sort of thing. I just want to mention as well, Mr. Antle mentioned in the last meeting that we've begun grooming the trails. That has resumed despite the fact that we've had a heavy amount of snow. We're already got the groomer out and we're grooming some of the trails, particularly the Powers Pond trails. That seems to be a very popular walking area. It's a beautiful scenic area as well, and we're grooming the trails and making use of that groomer that we purchased, and that's a really big thing. I'd like to get the word out to residents that those trails are being maintained throughout the winter. Finally, sidewalks are being removed as part of our daily operations. If we have snow on public walkways, we remove the snow on sidewalks almost immediately. It doesn't have the same priority as the main thoroughfares and streets, and there is a descending order in terms of the pecking order, obviously, but the sidewalks get done almost right away. So within usually 8-12 hours, we have trucks on the streets and clearing the sidewalks in the main thoroughfares and school zones. So again, the key here is to be a little bit patient. We've had a lot of snow in a short period of time. Obviously more to come, but Jerry, to you and your crews, great job, and I know this is early. This is a little bit of baptism by fire here, but it's nothing new to you, and certainly nothing that you can't handle. So good job. Pass that along to your staff as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much for that. Yeah, people, drivers need to be much more alert, and I got to say, I'm conscious of that these snowbanks, especially when you got a big snowbank and the weather is nice, you've got to drive around believing that there's children there.
You do.
Whether you see them or not, you've got to believe there's kids there, and you better be watching for them because they, I was driving my own street this week on Monday, and right across from Carol's store, where the art gallery is, right there, there's a little toboggan right up on top of the bank. And for a second, you think, right, there's a child coming. I don't know, but it was on. So there wasn't a child, as luck would have it. But it pops it in your head to say, yeah, these kids like to slide down these hills, right? And you got to be careful. Anyway, we'll. I think we're ready to move on. Or anybody else have a comment on anything from Public Works? Councilor Tester, did you have a comment, or are we moving on?
Well, we can move on. I can make my comment and then carry on with mine.
Well, yes, because it's
Okay.
a community services next report.
All right, before I start my report, to Councillor Walsh's, to his statement as well, with children playing outside in the snow, another good rule of thumb is that they should wear bright colored clothes. It's hard to see them sometimes if they're all dressed in dark, or they should wear something bright because it makes it easier to spot them as well. Again, when they're making their tunnels and they're digging out their forts, again, my kids used to do it as well. They enjoyed that very much. But directing them towards the street is very dangerous. The holes towards the street. Having even tunnels dug out towards the street. I mean, if the plow comes down or the snow blower comes down, they have no idea of knowing if there's a child inside that tunnel or not. They have no idea. So anything near the street is dangerous as well. And I think that it's also a good reminder to remind people that backing into your driveway so you can front
Critical.
out
Yep.
during this time of year particularly. I mean, we're supposed to do it anyway. But during this time of year particularly, I think it's critically important. Backing out with a snowbank on either side of you is so dangerous. It is just so dangerous. So I think it's something that we all need to be cognizant of. Winter is a very, very frustrating time, and it tests everybody's patience, but we have to adhere to as much safety as we possibly can. All right, community services. We have a short agenda, or a short report today. We received a request from race coordinator Jerry Fleming. They want to hold their annual MS walk through the Mount Pearl streets with 3 rest stops set up surrounding the walk. It's located at the Reed Center on May 27th. Oh my gosh, the snow will be gone by then. I can't believe we're talking about something in May. That's good. That's good. The certificate of liability insurance naming the city as insured during the event has been received from the MS Society of Canada, so we're recommending approval that the annual MS walk through Mount Pearl with 3 rest stops along the way, and this walk, of course, is located at the Reed Center, be approved subject to all requirements being met. And I so move.
Moved, seconded by Deputy Mayor Locke. Questions or comments? All in favor? Contrary minded, motion is carried.
And I just have a notice of motion. In accordance with Section 39 of the City of Mount Pearl Act of 1988 and Council's public notification policy, take notice that I will, at a regular meeting of Council, bring forward a motion to amend the current taxi regulations to reflect rate increases.
Thank you. We are moving on. Corporate Services Committee, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. A short report as well. The first one involves requests for tax consideration. We're recommending approval to exempt the 2012 business taxes for these two organizations here, and this is in accordance with our policy. And I move that these amounts be accepted as presented.
It is moved by Deputy Mayor Locke, seconded by Councillor Aker. Questions or comments? All those in favour? Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
The second item, Your Worship, involves the invoices for council approval. We have 10 items there totaling $463,297.29, and I move that they be accepted as presented.
Moved, seconded by Councillor Aker. Question or comment? Items 1 through 10. Councillor Tessier.
Just number 10, wondering what is a carbide edge, and does it have anything to do with number 8, which is the new edges for plow blades?
I thought it did.
Mr. Randall, do you have an answer?
The carbide edges that I'm familiar with are the edges that we put on our snowplows on the blades or else on the trucks. It's a carbide edge, it's a wear blade.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the S&S supplier if there's something else that's got carbide edges in the city. But that's what I'm familiar with, the carbide edge.
Okay, but so LSW wear parts, new edges for snow plows. Item number 8, that would be carbide edges. You're assuming, and number 10 is as well.
I expect it is.
Another set from a different supplier.
You have different blades.
Yes, according to the invoice, it does say there it's definitely the carbides, the wear blades, the wear
Yeah.
edges.
So it's two different kinds of blades, probably for two different
It could be
vehicles?
it could be either for the trucks or it could be
Okay.
for the plows. It's an edge that goes on the bottom of
Yeah,
the blade.
sure.
It's against the
They're
asphalt and it wears.
Right.
Versus the steel part of the blade.
Yeah, tearing it apart. Okay, I call the question on this then. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
The third item, Your Worship, has to do with an advertising request from Steel Communication Frosty Festival, and we're recommending approval for some Frosty Festival messages to be aired on VOCM and K-Rock at a cost of $910. So these are 7 30-second messages on each station, and I so move.
Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Aker. Let the record show that I will not vote on this as an obvious apparent conflict of interest. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion carried.
And our last item, Your Worship, has to do with a professional development request for the Government Finance Officers Association Annual Conference. Mr. Jason Silver is Director of Corporate Services, is requesting to attend this conference to be held in Chicago from June 10th to June 13th. And of course, this is in accordance with the Professional Development and Training Policy, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Contrary-minded? Motion is carried.
And that is it for me, Your Worship.
That
Thank
is
you.
Corporate Services. Moving to Economic Development, Communications and Tourism. Councillor Stoyles.
We just have the one item. We received correspondence from the oil and gas industry, who was working with the Community Food Sharing Association. Egg Walters sent a letter informing us about a food drive that they're doing February 25th to March 2nd, and they were looking for our support. And of course, this time of the year, with food banks being hard to get, I know during our winter carnival we supply our local food banks with food, and they were contacting us looking for support. So we just wanted to mention it, that they can drop it off at News Place or any of the oil and gas businesses in Donovan's. Apparently they're going to be having booths. There's a website there for anybody to look at and find out where the drop-offs are. They don't list the drop-offs here, so I don't have the list where they can do it, or they can call the Community Food Sharing Association and get the information. I'm assuming maybe we talked about our staff, if they wanted to bring stuff in and they could pick it up, because I know they will come and pick up. The Community Food Sharing Association will also come and pick up if you have amounts of food as well. So it's just for information only to support this great initiative. We've been supporting it. We do a major one here every year with Metrobus when they come in and do it, but this is a separate one that the oil and gas is sponsoring.
I think we should support that. There's no question. And obviously, that week they'll do something. Maybe at our city depot, at our city buildings, we could do something
Usually
as
our
part
staff,
of that. That'd be good.
we will send out a memo to all the staff, and if anybody wants to bring anything in, we will put a couple of curtains out in front, and usually
That's good.
Our staff will look after it, and just call them, tell them is here. They will come and pick it up that week.
Thank you, ma'am, very much. Is that all for you?
That's it.
We are up to Planning and Land Use Committee. Councillor Aker.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. The first item here is an order pertaining to the removal of debris and paint cans at 48 Bannister Street. Last year, this property was renovated, and the Property owner has been advised that the debris and paint cans outside in the fenced area in the back have to be removed. City inspectors have gone up twice to confirm this. A letter has been written to the owner. There's been no response. And on February 2nd, the city issued an order to have it cleaned up. And I would like council support to ratify that order, please.
Moved by Councillor Akers, seconded by Councillor Ledwell. Comments? All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Second item, Your Worship, has to do with ESRI Community Maps Program. I don't know if you've ever been on the city's website. I'm sure many of you have, right? Which says View a Map. It's a great map, right? You can go in and look at the city of Mount Pearl. You can see lots of features, including the waterways and all the addresses and the zoning and all that, right? So we have a relationship with ESRI, and what we'd like to do is share this information with ESRI so that they can add it to the map database, let's say, for all of Canada. So our information then would be available throughout the country. This is really just a cooperative effort. It will take a little bit of staff time to coordinate it. There's no cost to the city of Mount Pearl. And our recommendation is that the city participate in the Community Maps program sponsored by ESRI Canada, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Question or comment?
I wonder if Councillor Akers ever been into the website.
Yeah, a few times. Yeah, especially the maps, right?
I'd be disappointed if you weren't.
Yes, indeed. True. Yeah. Especially chair of planning, right? Yeah.
We'll call the question. All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Another confirmation of order, Your Worship, regarding 3 Hounsel Avenue. Basically, the order was issued on February 3rd, and this has to do basically with a shed that's partially built, as I understand it. It's not complete. So we've issued the notice, and in keeping with the fact that we recognize that it'd be difficult for the repairs to be done necessarily over the winter, I think we're giving them a little bit of extra time, in fact, to May 31st. So I would like to have council as well confirm that order here today, please.
Call the question. It is moved and seconded by Councillor Ledwell. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion carried.
Next item is development permit list for January 23rd to February 3rd. You can see before you permit number 6, and I so move.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Contrary-minded, carried.
The last 2 items in the regular agenda is the building permits for January 21st to February 3rd, residential in the amount of $235,000 and commercial in the amount of $206,000, and I'd like to move both, please.
Moved, seconded. All in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
Here we have one item out of the kit, Your Worship.
Yeah, okay.
The letter here pertains to 1221 Tops Road. Confirmation of an order. The order was issued, I believe, on February 7th, and it pertains to work that's being done on that property without a permit. We've been trying to get hold of the property owner. So we had correspondence. The inspector has looked at the site. And basically, the order's been issued. I'd like council again to approve this order, please.
Moved, seconded. Question or comment? All those in favor? Contrary-minded, motion is carried.
That's it, Your Worship. Thank you.
That's it. We do have an Engineering Services Committee report outside of the regular agenda. Councillor Ledwell, if you would.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick report, one item. Just to update Council about the fact that the committee, as well as Councillor Aker, had a meeting recently with 4 representatives from Newfoundland Power, of course, including Gerard Curtis, Mike Jardine, Mike Hummerford, and David Manning. Of course, the objectives to do with the meeting was just to sort of introduce staff, create a relationship there, and to, I guess, share some information as it pertains to upcoming developments. Of course, Newfoundland Power services over 100,000 customers, commercial and residential, and extend to Holyrood, Cappahayden, Mount Pearl, St. John's, and East Extern. It's over 100 staff in the Engineering Operations Division, and we got to meet a couple of their staff, of course, and hear a little bit about what they do. Certainly, they've had a good working relationship with the city, as they've had with all other municipalities that they serve, and this meeting, I guess, was aimed at continuing that good relationship. Certainly, there was an agreement in place that communication was going to be key as we move forward to with a number of these new developments that we have that are happening within the city, and just to keep that good working relationship happening, we agreed to some regular meetings, I guess, perhaps quarterly or at least semi-annually to discuss what's on the horizon. During the discussion, it was noted that public safety was of key importance as well, and just to echo what Councillor Walsh was speaking about earlier. The representatives from Newfoundland Power did ask that we bring to light the height of the snowbanks that are being ploughed up in our various parking lots and around the city. And of course, they also urge people to stay away from power lines. Of course, as we all know, that's a very dangerous situation, and they wanted to convey that message as well. Overall, I think it was a very positive dialogue that occurred at the meeting, and I think going forward, certainly the good working relationship that we have will continue.
Amen. Thank you for that, sir. Anybody wishing to respond to that?
I want
Councillor
to mention
Stoyles?
too that, of course, I attended the meeting, as I said, on the committee with Councillor Ludwell. We talked about the fibre optic too that Alliant has been looking at putting in around the city. And
Well, there's a lot of it in.
yeah, it is, and where I live, of course, it's all underground. And
So you can't get it. You're like me.
well, but what Alliant had said to us when they had met with us, that if there was any digging in any area, either we were doing it or Light and Power or anybody was doing it, if they had the ground dug up, there may be a chance that some areas that's underground may be done. And Newfoundland Power was telling us that they are doing an area up on London Drive, and any area they're going to do, they're going to inform us, so we can inform Alliant that maybe that some areas that's underground might get done sooner rather than later, because anybody that lives in that area have been told that the chances of them getting fibre optic is, they're probably not going to get it because the cost is too great. So one of the things that when we met with Alliant back a number of months ago, that was one of the things we said to make sure we keep it on the radar. If any area in the city is going to be dug up when it's underground, just to keep an open mind that hopefully, we won't be doing a whole lot of digging for us, because if we do, it means we got water main breaks or problems. But if we are, to make sure that Alliant is contacted, maybe they will, be able to come in and do some fibre optics in some of
That'd be
this
good.
area.
That's good. Thank you. Any other comments? Moving on to new business. Last week we started with Councillor Ledwell. We'll start with Councillor Aker today.
Thank you, Worship. Three little comments, and just further, I want to thank Andrew, Councillor Ledwell, for hosting that meeting with Newfoundland Power, and especially I'm glad to see Gerard Curtis come out to that meeting, and Newfoundland Power. It was a very productive meeting, and I think basically they have a much better understanding now of the projects that we've got on the go this year, including the potential multiplex which will be built, and they also shared some of their major capital projects with us, which I thought was interesting. So lines of communication are open, and I'm glad that we're proceeding on a positive note. Want to say thank you to the staff. Very, very well done the last 8 days, especially on the snow clearing, and to the Frosty Festival. So far, so good. Well, we only had one major storm. I'm sure we have more weather to come. I hear there's weather coming on Thursday, but Sherry Snow and them, who's chair of the board, Sherry and the board, did a great job, I think, handling Saturday with the weather the way it went. We're so glad that all the events are getting in. The Irish Pub Night was Sunday past, and that was nice to see. I think last year the Irish Pub Night was 2 months or so afterwards, thanks to the weather, right? So far, so good, and we'll look forward to seeing you at some of the events later in the week. Thank you, Your
Amen.
Worship.
Councillor Tessier.
Deal. I can't turn this on. There you go. Same kind of deal. I wanted to thank everybody so far who's involved with Frosty. I had a conversation with Sherry, actually, and it's interesting. I mean, we all see it happen. Andrew, you know very well this process. We all see it happen, and I know we're tired. There's so much to do. There's so much to be a part of. And I tell you, by the end of Frosty, we're tired, and we're going to some events and probably not able to stay at all of them, unfortunately. But they're there all the time. They're there from the second it starts by day until it ends at night. And what I think, we all say it, but when you really think about it, they're volunteers. Nobody's getting paid to do anything here. Everybody here is a volunteer, and Sherry herself has given up 2 weeks of her vacation, of her annual vacation, to actually work through Frosty. So I'm not sure, and she loves it. Make no mistake, it's a labor of love for her. But I'm not sure sometimes if we all sit back and recognize really the amount of work and effort and commitment and dedication that it takes for the volunteers to do what they're doing with Frosty Festival. And it's all for the sake of giving Mount Pearl this beautiful festival that we get to enjoy for 10 or 12 days. So we're very, very lucky. We've also been very lucky to see the sponsors out at most of the events. The media are there everywhere. You guys don't stop. You're always there, and that's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So it's so good. And Eastern Audio, I know they're a sponsor, but they're at every event. They're everywhere. It's it's absolutely wonderful. And I think as somebody who sometimes has to organize a large event, you sort of have an inside view of what it's like and what it takes. And when you organize something that runs for 12 consecutive days, hiccups and all, it's quite an undertaking. So I just really want to salute everybody who's involved with the organization. I'm looking forward to the rest of the week for sure.
Amen to that. Yeah, it's good. They're doing fantastic with all the work. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Stiles.
The only thing I'll say about the Winter Carnival, what I thought was great was to have all the past years at a luncheon before the opening officially started, and everyone the past years came out to a luncheon last Thursday, which was excellent to see all of them there. And I mean, as everybody else said, it was a great job, and glad to see everything is going well and the weather is cooperating fairly well, so it's not too bad. I do have a couple of items. I'd like for us to send a letter to Junior Reid. Junior won the Gibson Award. Apparently it was the only one given out in Canada, and Junior Reid got it. And Junior Reid, as all of us know around this table, certainly has given an awful lot to the community. He was there at the Irish Pub Night on Sunday night. He gives away all kinds of stuff every year to our seniors. Anybody who's doing an event in the city, most of the time, if they go to Junior looking for anything, they definitely got it. And hats off to him and his company. He certainly does a great job in the community, always willing to give, and I think he's so deserving of this award, and glad to see that he was.
Yeah, if you can get the information to Mono, we will arrange to do that.
It's on the Gibson website, so I can certainly pass it along to you.
Excellent.
And certainly.
Outstanding retail dealership.
Gibson Guitars, Gibson's Music.
Gibson Guitars. It was 6. It was 4 worldwide, 1 in Canada, and Junior Reid got it.
And he was
he was there and received the award, and apparently
That's wonderful.
It was great to see him get it. So I wanted to have that notice. Also, Your Worship, I'd like for us to send a letter of sympathy out to Mike Follett and the Maynard family. His grandfather passed away, and of course Mike is an employee here with us at the city in the planning department. And the other thing I wanted to mention, Your Worship, is a lot of break-ins happening within the city. I know up at the Reid Centre there's a sign on the door as you go in, not to leave valuables or anything, because people have had stuff taken.
In your car, not to leave these things in your car.
In your car, and or even in your jackets and that, and if you go anywhere. But there's been a lot of break-ins. I know up by me, up on Windsor Place, and on Dalton Avenue, there was 3 cars broke into the past couple of weeks, and I've been talking to seniors out around at the Winter Carnival events, and yesterday up at Spaghetti Supper, one of the ladies didn't make it because her car had gotten broken into the night before. So there's a lot of break-in entries happening, and especially in cars. So I wanted to let people know to be mindful, to make sure that they lock their car. And of course, locking the car don't matter because they break the windows out and get into the cars anyway. But if you got it locked, it takes them, or somebody might see something. So just wanted to have people mindful of that. And of course, the Seniors Independence did have their EGM, but of course, the executive, or mostly Shirley Boone, it was a 2-year position when she was put in place last year. But I think Mary Ruth May, the treasurer, is new this year. Other than that, everybody else I think is the same, and a few directors have changed. But hats off to them, and I'm sure you're going to be sending off a letter to them, wishing them well in the upcoming year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Walsh.
I'm going to pass second.
Councillor Ledwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to join with my council colleagues in speaking a little bit about the Frosty Festival, which is probably no surprise, I guess. But first of all, I guess I want to address Councillor Aker's comment about the Irish Pub Night in April last year. As chair of that winter festival, I was trying to.
It wasn't a slight.
Well, I was just going to say that I was trying to make it the longest Frosty Festival that we've ever had in the city, and Lord knows I achieved it. But certainly, Sherry and the board are showing me the error of my ways this year. They're doing a fantastic job, and of course, I know all of the hours very well that they put in every second Monday right from the month of August, and then that doesn't even factor in the subcommittee meetings and the meetings with sponsors and the meetings with all the different community groups. So big time kudos and a big thank you on behalf of the city to those people for all the hours that they put in, because it's just a fantastic job. We've all seen what a fantastic festival we've had over the past few days and will continue to have. Of course, I want to thank all of the other volunteers. I mean, there's hundreds of volunteers that make the Frosty Festival happen, from those who serve pancakes to those that help direct people in to the socials and the various events, and then the list goes on and on. So a big thank you to every one of the volunteers that provide so much support during the Frosty Festival. And of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't recognize the sponsors, as Councillor Tesser did as well. So a big thank you to all those folks, and best wishes for continued success with the Frosty Festival. I also do want to join with Councillor Stoyles in congratulating the newly elected Seniors Independence Group executive. I know that Shirley Boone, the chairperson, and her executive continue to do great work, and they're a wonderful group of people in Mount Pearl, as we've seen during the festival this week and throughout the whole year. So big congratulations to them, and certainly look forward to working with them in the near future.
Okay, sir, thank you very much. That ending new business, entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Walsh. We stand adjourned.